But with platforms like Jobwhere, you can connect advanced technologies to societies that need them. And even people or students or people who have spare time from their work can decide to contribute to open source growth or projects that they feel so passionate about. So the idea of Jobware is we want to include things like AI to be able to automate processes and learn the best condition for teams to function. Then also,
SUGEE people, welcome back to SUGEE podcast. I'm Fristy, your host for today, and today on our show we will have a special guest, Mr. Patrick Ocheja. How can I spell your name, Patrick?
okay, it's Ocheja.
Ocheja, okay,
Right.
Ocheja. A Nigerian software engineer who is working as the CTO of Jobwher, a Japanese IT company in Osaka, Japan. So today, Mr. Patrick will join me in this podcast by sharing his passion for developing Jobwher. So stay tuned, guys.
Welcome back to SUGEE Podcast.
Hello, Mr. Patrick. Thank you for joining me today on SUGEE Podcast. So today, SUGEE people, we will have an inspiring talk with the CTO of Jobwher, Japan. So, Mr. Patrick, could you tell me about yourself?
Okay, hi, SUGEE people. My name is Patrick, and I'm from Nigeria. So I've been in Japan now for close to 3 years. And before coming to Japan, I was a software developer in Nigeria with various companies, basically in finance, education, tech, and energy industry. And coming to Japan basically was for me to get a master's degree at Kyoto University. And since then, it has been pretty exciting working with lots of companies in Japan, especially Tokyo and Osaka area. And so far, for me, I pretty love it here, and it's been exciting. So I look forward to sharing my experience with you all. Thank you for having me.
Wow. Okay, then could you share with me and SUGEE people out there about what is Jobwher and why you are so passionate about developing this web application?
Yeah, so basically the Jobwhere, if you look at the name, job and where as in software, it's more like an application that enables cross-border collaboration, basically collaboration between distributed teams that live in different locations or different regions. And it provides the ability for workers to work on a project remotely without any friction of maybe time differences or location barriers or even team differences. The idea behind Jobwhere is we discovered that for some positions with the recent wave of things are going to become more remote. And if people are going to work remotely, there is a need to make work a little bit more fun, more enjoyable, and people should have the sustained strength or passion to continue working on the project. So for me, working on the Jobware project has been exciting because I consider it as one way to connect people to do what they love doing. Basically, look at, for instance, there are some economies or some countries you discover that they have abundance of skills, but they have less of job opportunities. And then in contrast, you have other countries where they have abundance of job opportunities, but they have low availability of skill. So with platforms like Jobwhere, we can create a match between skill availability and the job opportunity. So in essence, we try to solve a global issue by connecting people beyond borders and helping them to work remotely on defined projects. Then there is this twist that we always talk about in Jobware about being able to solve global issues across distributed teams. Take, for instance, advanced countries have technologies to solve problems in other parts of the world, but those parts of the world have no access to these technologies. But with platforms like Jobwhere, you can connect advanced technologies to societies that need them. And even people or students or people who have spare time from their work can decide to contribute to open source growth or projects that they feel so passionate about. So for me, solving this problem will be a fulfilling experience and also a fulfillment of one of my life dreams of helping to solve global issues.
Okay, then may I ask you again one question? Maybe SUGEE people are really interested in hearing what is the difference between Jobwhere and others like offshoring platform or other remote works platform, something like that.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, for me, Jobway has become something that needs to define a shift from what we define as work. If you look at other remote collaboration platforms, you discover that most of the time the emphasis is on only on delivering the project. Nobody cares how you work on the project. And in most cases, this is done in an individual manner where they say, okay, I need a designer. Okay, I go to the platform, an X platform, and then look for a designer to design maybe my logo or something. Then I need a website. I go and look for a website designer. So this is more like the person who has a job has to look for all the team members individually. But with platforms like Jobwhere, we look at the ability of being able to have a team that delivers a complete product. And the good thing about the team is that the team they have an experience working together or working in a distributed environment where everyone is responsible for a small part of a big picture. So the idea of Jobware is have a complete suite that assigns this task to a team to deliver. And while this team is working, they get the opportunity to meet with each other, review their work, learn from each other, and provide a more robust solution to the project owner, who in turn decides, okay, this is good, or no, team, do this again. So the idea of Jobware, we want to include things like AI to be able to automate processes and learn the best condition for teams to function. And also we bring along a blockchain aspect to it where people can even fund or support projects in a distributed manner. And then when you sign contracts with companies or with a project owner, the terms of the contract are on the blockchain. So this forms as a legal backup for both the project owner and the employee or someone who's recruited to work on this project. So we see a clear marked difference between Jobware and other existing platforms. So we want to make work to be fun in Web 3.0, the next version of the internet, basically. Yeah.
Okay, so your concept is not just like matching between the job seeker and the company, but the in the back of that is you want to make the people enjoy their work.
Exactly. Have fun
Okay.
while you do the work. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, and then can you tell me and SUGEE people out there about what is the history and the beginning of the Jobware project? Like, how can you suddenly become a CTO, and what is the beginning and what is the history behind that?
Yeah. So the history behind Jobware, it started from when I had the opportunity to meet with the CTO of Jobware, Mr. Nakai.
Mm-hmm.
So initially, we had a team, a very small team of I think 5 engineers, and we were trying to solve a problem. So we looked at different problems that we wanted to solve, and we considered things like maybe having a careers platform to help to show people opportunities. But then we discovered that while trying to solve another problem, we had a problem right under our nose. The problem was this: the CTO of Jobware, sorry, the chief executive, the CEO of Jobware, Mr. Nakai, had the challenge of having to pay each member on the project across different countries. And then we were living in different countries, and like we had to work together to achieve a goal, not minding the time zone, the time limitations, the maybe in some cases language barriers, and then in some cases you have to consider payments, how you pay those who work on a particular project. So we had this problem, and then we said, oh no, we are not solving our own problem, we are trying to solve another problem. So we're like, okay, let's focus on solving this problem. And also we discovered that we're able to build a synergy between ourselves while working across borders, across different countries. So we thought, okay, we can put the lessons we learned into a product that other people can use. So the whole idea was, if anyone wants to start a project, they should be able to get a very good team, a lean team that works and can work together and while they are working, they commit to it and do it in a fun way without reducing performance, which is what we have seen, which we have experienced. So the whole idea was, okay, let's solve our problem and then help other people solve their problem as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Oh, so the beginning is you guys think about how to solve your own problem and then leading
Yes.
it to the solve more like global or bigger problem.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So it was first of all an in-house problem. Then we say, okay, everybody, some people need this because it's very vital. So we decide to scale and put it out there.
And then, what is the biggest challenge you have experienced during Jobwher development, and how did you overcome them? I think there must be like a lot of obstacles, like how to manage your team, for example, because you guys working remotely and like something like that. Maybe some team member run away, or you have kind of experience.
Let me think. So I think one challenge that I've experienced with working with the Jobwhere team has been maybe when you start a project, there is usually a case where you have few people working on it, then there's a lot to do. Like for instance, my role might be just the CTO, but I have to maybe manage a project or like make sure manage, let's say, the back-end engineer, manage the front-end engineer, manage the UI UX designer. So in some cases, we on the team, we have to wear multiple hats. You can see somebody working on the front end become a back-end engineer in a split second because we need someone to do a task, and the back-end engineer is free, but the front-end engineer we have already has a task. So you see team members switching roles at the shortest notice. So then another thing again is with the time zone. I would tell you definitely the time zone could be a challenge in some cases. So it depends on how you work as a person. In some cases, there's a rolling base. For instance, we have a team member who's in Brazil and I'm in Japan, for instance. The time zone is completely 12 hours opposite. So currently, I think he's sleeping. This should be about like 2 a.m. in Brazil, I guess. So when he commits his task, will just be when we are waking up. So, but we try to harness this by making sure that before we go to bed, say in Japan or in Indonesia or in Philippines or anywhere that team members are, we complete the task that he needs. So this is one of the things we learned from developing Jobwhere. When you have teams in distributed locations, try to do a rollover kind of scheduling. Be sure that what the other person needs will be ready when they wake up and are ready to work. So some of these were initial challenges, then we learned from it and we decided to put this as part of a feature in Jobwhere in terms of scheduling tasks. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, apparently the obstacles when you're working remotely definitely is the time zone, and how can you like making all of your team members feel connected each other, because if you are working remotely, like they just feel as if they working alone, like something like that. And sometimes they don't have enough motivation, or like I don't feel I belong here, so just like
Yes, so it's been exciting. One thing I've learned also from my team members is the need to give them the sense of ownership. Like it's good to be the CTO and you know the product. You might want to hear your team members' perspective. If you give them the sense of ownership and tell them, okay, this is the idea I have. What do you think about it? How would you do it? And then they tell you, okay, I did a similar product before, and this is how we did it. Can we do it this way? So when you listen to them, what you end up gaining is you gain their interest. They become interested in it. And then they try to make sure it works. So the whole idea about when you have different team members with different motivation level is the ability to create ownership. And then make the team members see the need, or they make the team members see that their suggestions or their view is being considered. In some cases, of course, not all, you would not want to consider all the views. There might be clear product specifications. In this case, I think they understand, or you have to make them understand why it has to be so in terms of developing a product. Then in my experience as a software engineer, what I find out is that if you tell an engineer to do a task in a particular way, if he is not comfortable with that way, maybe because such way might lead to bugs or is inefficient, they will be uninterested. They will just do it. Okay, he said I should do it. Okay, I will just do it, and they do it and leave it. But if you tell the engineer, this is the task, what do you want to do to achieve this task? Then they tell you their ideas. In some cases, the ideas might be better than what you first of all thought about, because they might have experience in this aspect. So in that way, you see them bringing in their own tools, what they already have, and then it makes the project faster and there's more commitment. So when they have that sense of ownership, they stick to the project, and then everybody is communicating. So I think everything goes down to communication. Communicate with the team. Tell them where you're headed and let them say where they want to go. They might want to move faster. So give them that opportunity to say it or to do so. Yeah, basically.
So you mean like you give the freedom to your team member to choose on like, so okay, this is the task, and what can I do to finish this task is blah blah blah, something like that. So they should like think by themselves.
By themselves, exactly.
You don't do any micromanagement.
Yes, you don't. So the only time you step in, I suggest you should step in, is when the task is taking too long. You can tell them, okay, how long can you do this task? They tell you, okay, I'll deliver in 2 hours. And then maybe you can give them 4 hours. Once they don't deliver in 4 hours, then you ask, what is the challenge? Then the conversation starts. So then you in some cases, I try not to give a direct answer, then try to discuss with them, and then they find out the answer. And then, so for the engineer or for the person working on the task, it's more fulfilling when they find the solution. So guiding them to find a solution, it's also something they end up appreciating, and then ownership, they begin to commit more to the project, and then they feel like a sense of belonging to a team rather than an office or like a rigid workplace mentality.
Okay, and then did you find any crisis during the Jobwher development, Patrick?
That's putting me on the hot spot. Yeah, they're putting me in the spotlight. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I think so. So in some cases, you find out that some people might lose motivation no matter what you do, especially in the sense that it's not what they are interested in. So it's important to try to discover this on time and understand that, okay, if these team members who commit less are critical to your project, then you should look for a backup, because in some cases they might not turn up. So you would want to place them in a less critical role. Like if you expect to deliver to a client on a particular time, then you should know what team members to assign to some certain task based on their commitment level. Yeah, so that's been the only thing I found like was a bit difficult in some cases. Yeah.
Okay, so the less motivated team member that become a burden for the team is your big problems and crisis.
Yes, because in some cases, lots of other team members might be waiting for a particular feature to be developed by a demotivated team member, and then everybody is stuck and nobody is moving forward. So it's important to in such cases step forward and either take the project, take the feature and do it, or assign to someone else, or try to see them, tell them the need to do that project on that feature on time. Yeah.
Okay, then could you share the tips and tricks for like developing software or web application to the SUGEE people out there?
Okay, I'll try my best to answer this. So, for anyone who wants to start a software product or start an app in Japan, I think the first thing I would want to ask is, or the person should ask is, what kind of product do you want to build? And does that product already exist? If it does exist, then the job is easier because you have a template to look at, and then you know what is already in the market and what is still missing. That's what people are still looking for and have not found a product. So that gives you a clear view of where to look at. So then the next thing you want to evaluate is, can you develop the product on your own? That do you have the software programming skills to do this by yourself, or do you need a team? Even if you have the skills, you need a team to be able to do this. So if you have the skills, then maybe it might be faster for you to work on it, like come up with a prototype, then try to convince your team to onboard on the project. Because I would say from my experience, before I started working on Jobwher, we worked on a different product, which we had in-house. So it was first of all the contact with the team, which led to this product. So we had to discuss about it and then see the need to do this product, and everyone was on board that it's what's doing. So I think there's also a need to find at least a small group that believes in what you want to do. So if you can't convince one person, if you cannot convince one person to join the project, then you should think about the project again, because your first task as someone who has an idea is to be able to convince people that your idea is worth it. So if one person cannot believe in your product, then I think it's a problem. It's a major problem. So, and then in some cases, it might be difficult to find people who want to work with you. And this is where I would advise to look out for communities. Like maybe there are communities on Facebook, or there are meetups that happen in places like Osaka. And then there's a Scribble Osaka lab. You can walk into there and then you can meet other people too who are like-minded, who want to start business. So you can find people you can discuss with, and then you might find team members there who would want to work with you. So my advice would be network with people, find spaces, collaborative spaces, and network with people. And then also, it's also important to, even though you stay within Japan and you're trying to build a business or to build a software application, you should also look outside in terms of look at global competitions. This can give you an idea of what an app should do. For instance, there might be some hackathons that define some certain targets or metrics. You can look at these metrics and use it to evaluate your idea to see if your idea would pass when you test it against a market, or to test it for profitability or viability or usability. So I think these are the initial stages you want to go through as a software engineer, or a business person who wants to start or to develop an app in Japan. Yeah.
Okay, and then what do you think about the prospect of starting a software development business in Japan for foreigners like us?
If you want to start a software business in Japan, I think there's a good prospect depending on the sector, the industry you go into, and what the product is. So, for instance, if I give you an example of if I want to start maybe a navigation service in Japan, and navigation service, there could be newer ideas. But if I want to start maybe a search company, like an online search company in Japan, it doesn't really make sense because there are big players already like Google, Microsoft, who are in this space and they're already in Japan as well. But if you want to solve a problem that foreigners identify with, there's a big market in Japan, I can assure you. Because from my experience, there are lots of foreigners I meet every day that complain about something that they want to use and they can't find it. So if you're a foreigner coming into the Japan space, I can bet you that it's promising, but be sure to learn the terrain. Yeah, be sure to learn the networks, because it's definitely important for your application to scale. If you can find, if it's a foreigner targeted software business, you should look for a community where you can reach out to foreigners. But if it's a local product that is going to integrate with the locals in Japan, then you should find a similar community to communicate with. And maybe this is more of like a shocker. In Japan, what I've noticed is digital advertisement doesn't move as much as it does in the West. If you advertise online, I don't think it's that effective within Japan. You have to use the traditional media like print media, send stuff to mailboxes, yeah.
Pamphlet.
Yeah, pamphlets, flyers, yeah, and yes, billboards. You should go with the traditional ones. They are much faster in Japan, yeah, from my experience. Yeah.
Oh, is that? What do you think? In your opinion, is that trends is only valid for the old generation? I mean, like, I don't know. How about the young generation in Japan?
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it has to deal with the generation as well. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I completely agree. But then again, if you look at Japan, if you look at the statistics, it's more of an aging population. So invariably, you have more of old people. So if your app is targeting based on adoption, wide scale adoption, then you might want to consider the old people as well. So yeah, so generally for younger generation, online the online space is much more in vogue, and this is what they identify with. But for older generation, which forms a larger population of Japan, it's the usual print media.
Okay. Then let's go back to your product, Jobwher. So okay, and then in what way Jobwher may impact the future?
Okay, so this is a very interesting question. I think for me, it's really necessary we talk about it, because the times we are, it's quite different, especially with given the COVID-19, and everyone is worried about going out and then doing their normal activity as we used to do. So what this project portends for companies or businesses is that more and more jobs will become remote. For instance, some companies like Twitter has already given their staff the ability to work from home if they want to, continue into 2021. So I even think Jack Dorsey of Twitter announced that they could work from home for life as long as they want to, as far as they're employed by Twitter. So this trend now tells us that the shift is going to be from working in office to remote work. And then since this is happening remote, managers, team leads will be worried about the productivity of their team members. So it becomes necessary to have a way to evaluate the productivity. And then when you evaluate productivity, you would want to do this without, you would want to do this also with looking at how convenient is the work for the team members. For instance, if I work from home and I have some barriers, maybe some challenges, how can I communicate this to my team? And how can my team support me? So this is where Jobwher comes in. The ability to form a team that works and support one another, and also the ability to understand the implications of maybe the work that is being submitted and what the productivity level is. So basically, as the work is going to shift from in-office to remote, there will be need to answer questions on productivity, team collaboration, and the effectiveness of work for the lifestyle of the worker or the team member. So for me, yeah, it's because most people should think of things like AI is going to take up most of the jobs. The AI that is going to take up the job is the AI that evaluates your efficiency and can replace that efficiency.
Mm.
The AI that can replace that human touch or the human feel to the work you do. So that AI is what we try to update or to adapt the work environment to, so that instead of replacing humans, we can support humans with AI to improve productivity as well as work lifestyle, basically. Yeah, so
Okay.
the future looks exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, in the future, you see there's a prospective future for Jobwhere because the shifting of the paradigms
Yes.
of the
Yeah.
people, yeah, they like starting the digital transformation due to
Exactly.
some kind of pandemic.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that way it will impact the future. And then, then when will the Jobware will be launched? Maybe
Okay.
some people were really curious. Okay, this platform is really cool. I wanna use that, and then
Yes. So yeah. So at the moment we are currently working on it, and we are targeting to launch in July.
oh, July,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. So
July
we'll be in the
2020.
market. Yes.
Yeah, please make a
We'll
note.
be in the market. Yeah, sure. Look out for us. July 2020. Yeah.
July 2020, guys. Okay, then and then maybe I will ask you one last, not one last, two last question.
Okay.
But this is
Okay.
not related with Jobware. I'm really curious. Like, do you have any culture shock during your stay in Japan? Like, because like some of foreigners find some Japanese customs or culture is strange or like I don't know, troublesome or something. And maybe you have really interesting story that you can share to the SUGEE people because it's really rare to find Nigerian here. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
So
maybe you have really funny story.
yeah. So about culture shocks in Japan, I think for me the most striking one is in terms of how people communicate. By communication, I mean, for example, my neighbor in my previous apartment before this apartment, um, I never knew my neighbor. I never saw my neighbor face to face. For me, this was shocking because usually back home in Nigeria, you just wake up in the morning and then you step out of your house, then you see your neighbor outside, then you wave, you chit chat, you talk for a while, and then you start the day's activity or things like this, or you see the kids running on the streets and things like this. But in Japan, no, you don't see this. So like it's more of like people are introverts by default, so you don't see that kind of relation. But people, so of course I did ask some Japanese people and they told me that okay, that maybe no, that in some cases if you speak Japanese, maybe I would have met some people. So I don't know if that's the case, but in my experience it was really shocking because I lived in a place for 1 year. I didn't know my neighbor. I was like, okay, what's how do I socialize with my immediate community, my immediate surrounding? So it was really shocking for me because growing up in Nigeria was like I knew virtually everyone on my streets. So but in Japan I cannot say the same thing. I'm not sure I know up to 2 people on the streets. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. So yeah, you are right. So the people here is like really introvert by default.
Yeah, yeah. So but then again, the exciting thing is if you can meet one of them and relate with one of them, then you can meet others easily. So the first thing is breaking that bubble. Like if you poke like the shell and you get in, then you're in. See, yeah, that's the tricky thing. And of course, definitely, I think they are pretty awesome people. They are pretty nice people. I would say, in my experience, I've never seen. I would say for sure, I've never seen any set of people that would go out of their way to make sure you solve your problem. Yeah, they're very supportive. Yeah, to foreigners. For me, in my experience, I can't say one day that I've met a Japanese person that was unsupportive, or somebody in Japan that was unsupportive if I had a problem, like if I missed my way, or if I wanted to go to someone I couldn't find my way, or if I need a product and I can't find it. They're always supportive. And then there's always a smile. Yeah. So
Yeah,
from
they
there,
are polite, yeah.
yeah.
Okay then, last question before I recite the conclusion and close the episode for today. On scale
Okay.
1 to 10, what scale you recommend Suge people to start using Jobwhere in future, and why?
And okay, that's a perfect score. So I would say maybe eight. Then
Okay, 8
I'll
Suge people.
okay. Let me put it at 8. But by after July, it will move to 10. I can assure you.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but
After July
why?
10.
Yeah. So why you should use Jobware and when you should use Jobware is if you have to handle or manage distributed teams and you want efficiency and a team with a human touch, a team that collaborates, and a team that works together, then you should use Jobware. And also, if you have a business and you're looking at getting the best set of engineers who can provide you the skills you need at a convenient rate and at an affordable rate, then you should use Jobware as well. Then, if you also have an idea you want to start, but you find it difficult to find engineers or team members, you should use Jobware to look for your team members. If you cannot find a team member, you would find me. Just send me a message on Jobware. Yeah. And then I'll help you look for team members. Yeah. That's my promise to the SUGEE people. Yeah.
Okay, so people, you heard it already. Okay, then I will recite for the today conclusion for this podcast. So people, if you are interested in doing the software development business, at first you should do the market research, and then you should evaluate whether you have the skills or not, and then you should gather the teams. By using what, Mr. Patrick?
Jobware.
Jobware.
My preferred option.
And then you should also convince people that your idea is really great, and you should look for the communities and networking.
Yes.
It's the really important things. And then after that, you should in Japan, it's really prospective for the software development, but you should see the industry and the product first. And if you are foreigners living in Japan, you should at first see the situation, and maybe the prospect will be really high if you want to solve the problem that only foreigners can see or find in Japan. And in the future, there will be the digital transformation and paradigm shifting due to the COVID-19, and more company will become remote. So, in this case, Jobware will what? will solve the problems. Okay, so thank you so much, Patrick, for joining me today on the SUGEE podcast. And SUGEE people, thank you for listening. And if you are interested in Jobware, you can visit jobwher.com. jobwher.com. SUGEE people, make sure you subscribe on podcast on the Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and YouTube, so you never miss an episode. For your information, if you are interested to work in Japan, SUGEE Kansai has free consultation service for finding a suitable job for you, full in English. For your information, finding full consultation service in English in Japan, it's really hard. So SUGEE people, if you are interested, please contact us, and you can stop by our website at sugee.gp, SUGEE.gp. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to SUGEE Podcast. Subscribe our channel and turn on notifications. We provide services for businessmen and professionals who work in Kansai. Arigatou gozaimasu.